opinions expressed by callers, guests, and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of the Black Talk Radio Network and Black Talk Media Project. Black Talk Radio is new black media for the new millennium.
This broadcast is being brought to you by Covenant Medical Center at 6109 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, where they specialize in cardiology, diabetes, hypertension, and pain management. Dr. Donald Ware is your specialist, whose practice is focused on patient care, rehabilitation, and life quality. They can be reached at 323-750-5000 or 323-565-2778. Remember, Covenant Medical Center for excellence in patient care.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Tuesday, December 13th, in 2016. We're headed toward the end of the year. I woke up this morning and the nightmare of this presidential election is still not over, but we're going to talk about some things that we have on our mind, and hopefully you folks will join us. This is Kenny Hendrix. This is Change Matters, so make sure you join us. I'm going to give you the numbers, 866-510-9025. Join us. We have plenty to talk about for the next hour. Again, this is Change Matters Solutions, and I'm Kenny Hendrix.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and I am Collette Williams. I am broadcasting live here in sunny, very, very dreary, cold, and maybe a little wet, sunny Southern California, Los Angeles. And as Ken mentioned, it is December 13th, Tuesday, December 13th, and we are coming to the close of another year. We're embarking on 2017, and I hope everyone is ready for the new year and the New Year resolution. As we know, we all have New Year resolutions, and we tend to break them or forget about them or just don't get to them. But let's make this a year, 2017, that the resolutions that we make, we stick to that. And let's make a resolution that we are going to do the best we can to get through this year with this. I refuse to use the word president and that name in the same line. So we've got somebody that may or may not move into the White House who wants to claim victory. We are not going to let that get us down. We are going to do our best to prosper and to make sure that this is a great year. We see that there are things happening, cabinet members being placed in positions, and it's hard for me to even justify why any of this is even going on. So, as Ken said, we've got a lot to talk about. It's very cold and very gray outside, so let's make this a very lively conversation. Be sure to give us a call. We are at 866-510-9025. And if you're not able to give us a call, you can also reach us at changematters99@gmail. That's changematters99@gmail. So let's get this conversation going. There's a lot to talk about. As I read the ticker, I'm always thinking, I can't get everything in an hour. So one of the things that we are going to do in the new year is branch out. We've got a lot to talk about, lots of people that want to join the show and lots of people that want to join this platform. And we do a lot to get information out. So join us at 510-9025. That's 866-510-9025, or changematters99@gmail. So let's get going, Ken. How about you?
One of the things we wanted to talk about is the shooting of the former NFL player,
Will Smith.
Will Smith, who was shot over the weekend. We wanted to juxtapose that with another gentleman, the former NFL player who was shot, McKnight as well. It's interesting, and those who listen know that I'm an avid gun person, I believe, especially as black people. And as a matter of fact, I just sent something out on the Change Matters website about black.
I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we really need to be doing that. But not to digress, the white gentleman who shot Will Smith was basically questioned and released, and the black gentleman who shot
Will Smith.
Will Smith. I can't get their names. I've only had one cup of coffee so far, so I'm still.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He spent 8 months in jail. Now he's been convicted of manslaughter. So he's been
40 years.
Yeah, it's been 8 months.
40 years. Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to wait to see what happens with this other white gentleman, who again, he's been arrested, but he was allowed to go home.
And they said the reason he was allowed to go home was because there was someone that said that there was a fight, and that McKnight got out of his car, and that's when the fight ensued. And they did not arrest him and hold him, until a witness came forward and said that all of the things that they initially reported were not true. And the witness said, no, the things that you had, the things that you were reporting were not true. So then they go back and arrest him, and they charge him with manslaughter. But they allowed him to go home after he even said that he shot this person, McKnight, 3 times in the hand, the leg, and the chest. Anybody that shoots someone 3 times, that ain't simply by accident.
No, but
that's not by accident.
The gun laws in certain states, here in Texas, they do, and obviously Florida and obviously Louisiana, they allow, even without the stand your ground law.
Stand your ground. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but even if they're not called that, they do allow you to protect yourself with your firearm and protect yourself without the need to retreat. You have no duty to retreat. It used to be, for example, in Texas, up until maybe, 5 years ago, you used to have a duty to retreat. So in other words, if there was a threat, you at least had to try to get away. And then if you shot somebody, you were justified. But now it's like you've got no duty to retreat. And I get that. I think the problem is the way the justice is administered, when who's arrested and who's not arrested, and those sorts of things. It's, we have the right as black people, as Americans, to own firearms. And again, I think we should exercise those rights vehemently. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we have this justice system that is not equal. And that's what, we need to continue to fight for, to make sure that we are treated equally under the law. And that's where the problem lies. Because I believe, it's one of the problems that the Will Smith case is, he got out of his car. And anytime you get out of the car and walk up to somebody else's car, that person can say, I feared for my life.
He felt threatened.
He felt threatened. And one of the first cases here in Texas, when they passed the concealed carry law back in late 90s, whatever year it was, one of the first cases tested was a guy who jumped out of his car. He ran into somebody, jumped out of his car, and went after the guy that he had run into, and the guy said, I feared for my life. And incidentally or coincidentally, the guy that did the shooting was white, and the guy that got shot was Samoan.
Right.
So if you're white, you're more likely, and the facts bear this out, the numbers bear this out. If you're white, you're more likely to be let go. You're more likely to be seen as fearing for your life. But if you're a minority, particularly black, you're more likely to be seen as the aggressor.
Right, the aggressor, which means the the way to resolve it is to always come out with, I feared for my life. I felt threatened. I feared for my life. He's a big black guy.
Right.
I'm a little meek white guy. He could beat me up.
Right.
I feared for my life. And I have to question, what does that actually look like? What does that look like? Just because this other person is a black man and this is a white man, you fear for your life. You know what? When you look at the numbers of criminals and how serial killers are talked about and how they are described, white folks do a whole lot more than black folks. But we're constantly being touted as the aggressor.
Right.
We're constantly being touted as the one that was in the wrong, because black men are usually the aggressor.
And as a matter of fact, somebody posted a meme on Facebook, and I'm looking for it right now. And it showed how many? 9, 12 pictures of white men who had recently, within the past few months, shot and probably killed policemen, and they were all white.
All white.
All white.
All white. And when the numbers were given about all of the so-called massacres, and that is what they were, unfortunately, those were between the ages, white guys between the age of 17 and 25, all of them white. There was only one that they could not get, and when they decided to profile that person, that was Malveaux and Williams. The Atlanta shootings, Atlanta and Washington, D.C., that was Malveaux and Williams. But every time it came up on the news feeds were always, they were looking for a white guy, a middle-aged white guy. Isn't it interesting that the middle-aged white guys are the ones that commit these crimes? And then on the other side is the middle-aged white guys hold these political offices, these high-powered political offices. Look at what we're looking at now. So they're either a serial killer, a mass killer, or they're a politician. Wow. Go ahead, Ken.
The profile, the Malveaux Williams, the D.C. shooters.
Yeah.
There's a right-wing Filipina, what is her name? Michelle Malveaux. During that time, right after the arrest, she went ballistic all over, what was his name? The local sheriff or police chief. I can't think of his name right now. His name is like Wolf or something like that. But she was all over him because the profile was usually a younger white male, between the ages of the 20s or 30s or something like that. They did those sorts of things, and those are the people they were looking for because they profiled.
Right.
And I recall they arrested Malveaux, she went ballistic talking about how a terrible sheriff he was. The sheriff is black. How terrible he was for profiling white men. And it turned out to be black.
Right. When Peter Jennings on ABC reported this, and he also read the profile, he was absolutely amazed that it was Malveaux and Williams. He said never have they ever thought that it would ever be a black man and a black kid.
Typically
all
you don't see that.
What was that?
Typically you don't see. I say typically you don't see black men committing those sorts of crimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
so when they profiled a killer, the only thing that they could come up with was a middle-aged white man who had issues. But it turned out to be an 17, 18-year-old kid and his so-called mentor. Okay, so we're looking at killings where people are saying black folks do all of these, black men commit these crimes. They're usually the aggressor. You know what?
And I would, as a licensed carrier of a gun, I would caution everyone out there, I don't care what color you are, to do two things. One is, In driving, I have always been an aggressive driver, and I would get into not really bad road rage situations, but give somebody the finger, yell and scream, that sort of thing. When I started carrying, I don't do that anymore, because in my class, I remember the instructor saying, "You're gonna have to change the way you do things." Not just talking to me; he was talking to everybody. You don't get into road rage situations. Something happens, you've got to be the bigger person, because even if you're in the right, your life changes. Once you pull that trigger, your life changes. And seriously, do not exit your vehicle. Once you exit the vehicle, you're going to be seen as the aggressor.
Right.
Okay? Don't exit the vehicle. Drive away. It's not worth it. It is not worth it. So, if you look at the guy a couple of years ago that shot into the car of teenagers, killed one of them. Then he left and got pizza and went to a motel, he and his wife. Now he's in jail. He's in jail because they went ahead and convicted him, thank God. And if you look at the people that get into these situations, your life changes, and not for the better. It's never for the better. You've taken somebody's life, it's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you at least some time in jail. Something's going to happen. So again, I would caution people, don't get out your car. Try to be the bigger person. Don't get into the situation. Somebody cuts you off, let them have it.
Let them have it.
Let them have it.
Right.
I mean, let them have the lane, not as in, give it.
Right.
So
don't let him have a barrel loaded. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Not that way.
Right.
Because it's not worth it. And it's
it really isn't. And when you look at how nobody comes out of that kind of encounter unscathed. Everybody pays for that. So it's the same thing with the white guy that was allowed to leave. They said that this guy, he was really the one that was the aggressor, because they also talked about another incident that he had several months prior at the very same intersection, where there was another road rage incident with him and another driver. So he was clearly the aggressor, but they let him go. They let him go, and then they decided to arrest him and hold him. What was that?
Same thing with the Trayvon Martin situation.
Right.
And I blame the DA's office, the prosecutors. They completely blew that case. And I think the one thing that they did was they bought Zimmerman's story.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you watch I didn't watch the entire trial, but what they tried to do was, there was a part where Zimmerman apparently said Trayvon was on top of him. Well, they bought that. They never said, no, he's lying. Here's how it really went down. And as I just said earlier about exiting the vehicle and being the aggressor, the fact that he exited that vehicle, the only reason he got out of his truck was because he had a gun. And for him to say he was getting out to try to look at the address is bull. That in and of itself should have invalidated his statement. That should have said you were the aggressor. You had no business getting out of your car. And
when he called 911, he was told to leave it alone. You go home. We will send people out there. We don't need you to do anything. We don't need your assistance. Leave it alone. You go home. And all of that conversation has been recorded, and it's been made public. So why in the world do they not listen to the recording? Why do they choose to think that this man was innocent of any wrongdoing? Just doesn't
same thing with
really
the
make
Joe Horn down in Pasadena, Texas, when the two guys were robbing the house next door, and he ran out with the shotgun. Excuse me, and he was on with 911, and he said, I'm not going to keep letting them get away with this. And the guy said, man, don't go out there, don't do it, and he shot him. He became the aggressor. The police were there like in less than a minute after that. They were right there. They need to at least look at deputizing the 911 people. So when the 911 people say, don't do it, that needs to be a lawful order
and
from a police
admissible
officer.
in court. It needs to be when somebody is told not to do something, and 911 is the chain of command. 911 calls the authorities. How is it people think that they don't have to adhere to that? How do people think that they don't have to stand down?
They're not in the chain of command. That's the problem. They're not in the chain. They are civilians. They're not
right.
deputized.
They are civilians. So, right.
If you don't do it.
If you don't do what 911, I don't have to listen to 911. Well, wait a minute. Come on.
Yeah.
You don't have to, but it's in your best interest that you listen, that you do what you're told to do, because the consequences of that never comes out in your favor. No matter how things take place, it never comes out in your favor. So we're looking at a situation now where, and I'm lots of people are thinking, what's going to happen after the inauguration, if there is in fact an inauguration? What's going to happen after that? White supremacists have come out all over the country. There's no longer a reason to hide. They're out in your face. This Spencer person, who is the president of the alt-right, the nationalist organization, he's all over the news. The woman who called Michelle Obama a derogatory name, that governor, she gets her job back.
Right.
Really, people? And I hope that we are looking and watching all of this, because this directly impacts the black community, all minorities. And
I would implore people to not watch your inauguration. And there's a thing going out on.
Please do not watch the inauguration.
Please do not watch the. Do not validate this.
That's a call to. And they've already stated. I've seen on the news and I've read that thousands, probably millions of people are doing the same thing. Do not watch the inauguration. Do not watch the inauguration. Rick Perry is now the Secretary of Energy.
one of the organizations he wanted to get rid of.
Right.
One thing, and I'm really, really disappointed in the Democrats. I've known they were weak for some time, and they are still showing how weak they are.
The Dems, come on. I'm trying to come up with a new party, because the Dems are just being ridiculous. The Dems are just being
after McCain and at least two other lawmakers came out. After McCain and two other lawmakers came out and said, if Hillary wins, they're going to block every Supreme Court nominee for the next 4 years. And now Trump has won, and the Democrats are not saying the same thing.
Right.
They need to come out and say, we're going to block not only just any Supreme Court, we're going to block everybody. We're not going to give you anything. That's what they've done to President Obama for the past 8 years. And when Scalia passed away, and it was time for Obama to nominate another Supreme Court justice, and they came out and said, we're going to block it.
The West Virginia official,
Come on. That's insane. That is insane.
That is just absolutely insane.
And Democrats
and you
always
know what?
want to take the high road.
How weak can we be? Is there room to become weaker? How weak can we be? And the Dems are sitting back, allowing, not saying anything, not standing up, not showing any strength, not showing any conviction. This it's really shameful.
Someone in the Democratic
really
Party
shameful.
Needs to file a motion to have the entire election invalidated based on the information coming from the FBI and the CIA with regard to the interference from Russia. That should invalidate the entire election.
Right. It should. It absolutely. And 17 agents.
I guarantee you, if that happened on the Democratic side, I guarantee you the Republicans would be.
Oh yeah, they'd be up in arms.
Filing motions on a daily basis.
Right. They would be up in arms. They'd be doing all kinds of stuff. Their energy would just be through the roof. All of the things that they would do. Oh come on. Oh come on. So what can the Democratic Party say about the inaction. What can they say about this? Because this just doesn't make sense. The Dems are just letting things go by. No way, no strength, no conviction, just letting things go, which just doesn't make any sense at all. Doesn't make any sense. And what does this say to the millennials? And that's a bipartisan group anyway. What does this say to the millennials who are watching the Dems and the baby boomers who are sitting back doing and saying nothing? It doesn't say that we have any strength, that we have any conviction, that we're moving forward, that we're making things happen, that we're in charge. And we have to find a way to be in charge. And this just is not the way. And as long as we continue to do this in this fashion, we're going to look weak. The Democratic Party will always look weak. The Democratic Party will always look like the party that is just a pushover, allows things to happen, nothing, no conviction, no strength. That just can't happen. That just cannot happen. So as we move on, as we go into this coming year, the new year, with a new person in office that I don't believe is qualified at all, how do we explain all of this without some kind of action being taken? How do we explain this? We can't. We cannot explain it. We don't even know how it happened. We know that there was an election. We know that there was the Electoral College. We know all of those things, but it's absolutely unexplainable. It doesn't make sense. In the very same fashion, that person never made sense at a debate. Never made sense at a debate. Never made sense with any of the things that ever were spewed, but we allowed it to happen. We allowed this to happen. And now everybody
I'll go ahead and give the
upset.
listeners our number again to join the conversation.
Yeah,
that
go
number
ahead.
is 866-510-9025. Again, 866-510-9025. And to make sure you hit star when you get in there if you want to join the dialogue. We are Change Matters
Right.
Solutions. I'm Kenny Hendrix. And we're talking
And
about the recent shootings and
Yeah, go ahead.
the recent shootings and other things happening in the political world.
Right. I am Collette Williams, and we are at the bottom of the hour. We're going to take a station ID, pay some bills, and we're going to come back and talk about the shooting. But we're also going to talk about and ask you to join in the conversation. We're going to talk about what we do moving forward. We're getting ready to have another 365 days in which we can make a change. And as you know, those of you who are regular listeners, we are Change Matters Solutions. We are looking for solutions. We cannot come up with solutions all by ourselves. Ken and I, we need your help. We need your help. The other thing that we're going to talk about is a new film that's coming out, and it's called I Am Not Your Negro, and it's about James Baldwin, the author James Baldwin. The other thing that we're going to talk about is 13, a film by Ava DuVernay, and I hope all of you, most of you, have seen it, and if you have, call us. You have the number, that's 866-510-9025. Let's have a discussion about this, because those two films are about the black community. And if we forget from whence we came, we're in big trouble. And that's where we see ourselves now. So we're going to take a station break. We're going to pay some bills. We're going to be back here. Remember that phone number, that's 866-510-9025. And that's star to join in the conversation. Be sure to join us, come back with us, and we'll be back in just a moment.
You are tuned in to the Black Talk Radio Network. For podcasts and live program scheduling, Visit us on the web at blacktalkradionetwork.com.
Give yourself the gift of good health this season. Attend the Southern California Women's Health Conference and Expo that brings together thousands of women, men, families, and community-based health organizations, medical professionals, beauty and wellness experts at a day of fun, a day of education, a day of inspiration, and a day of good tidings. It's going to be in Pasadena on Friday, December 16th, 2016, from 7:30 a.m. till 3:30 p.m. All the workshops, the expo, are free of charge, and so is the Man Cave. For more information and to get your questions answered, register at www.thesocalhealthconference.org. That's www.thesocalhealthconference.org. Remember, Friday, December 16th, 2016, at the Pasadena Hilton Hotel in sunny Pasadena, home of the Rose Parade. Thank you. And we're back. Ken.
And we are back. Thank you for joining us here at Change Matters Solutions. We've got a caller on the line. Caller, are you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you. How are you, sir?
This is Ray Wilkerson from I'm One in a Million.
Hi, Ray. How are you?
I'm doing good, and I hope I was trying to catch it while y'all was still on track when you were talking about the police brutality, because if people don't know, it'll hit home just real quick, and I want to get off track. But Friday, my grandson lives in Waynesboro, North Carolina, was in the cafeteria. A little white kid threw something on him. He walked to another seat, asked the little white boy, he was in his chair, he said, could you get up his chair? He told my grandson, and my grandson is about 85 pounds wet. Little kid who was bigger than him said, you need to go back to Africa. So when the little boy jumped up, he pushed my grandson, a fight ensued. A sheriff from the Waynesboro County ran past the little white boy, picked up my grandson, body slammed him on a concrete floor, bust his lip, bust his eye, and they think they can do anything right now. So we're actually pursuing some legal matters, and we're not going to be doing no marching. We're coming with some serious solutions, and
Right.
just wanted to let people be aware of if from inside a mother's womb, if you're black until you're 100 years old, there's a possibility, especially if you're a male, that you might not make it back home.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
And we've got to look for a solution. And these things, with this new administration and all the racist talk, he's got that Steve Bannon guy who's part of the alt-right and the
Right.
and
the Dems need to say something about that. The Democratic Party and civilians, everyone needs to say something about that. You consider yourself, or you've told us that you're not racist, then why are you aligning yourself with all of the people that the entire country knows to be racist? He knows he's a racist.
And we're sorry to hear about your grandson. We hope he's okay, Ray.
Yeah, we're sorry about that, Ray.
The good thing is he lives to deal with it tomorrow.
Right.
And when you look at and my faith in the when you look at the Democrats, they're not going to say nothing. They not just being weak, they have they don't have a concept of what it is. First of all, they just take black people for granted anyway, because they just assume we with them. So because all these things, it's going to line their pockets along with lining the Republican pockets, because when you think about it, we have some friends, I have some members in our organization when I am made who in some very high place in D.C., they get pretty soon, but if he happens to make the 4 years, which I don't think he's going to make.
I don't think he's going to make it.
I mean, they're talking about eliminating all government jobs, make everything privatized. So, I mean, they're all about making this money off of the sweating, off of our taxpayer money, off of black people. Nothing's not going to change. They not only do they want the 1.4 trillion that we give them, they also want that 1.4 trillion taxes that go along with it, and they don't, and they're coming after it just like that.
Right.
That's why we need to understand the power of the purse. We need to understand the spending power we have in this nation, and we need to spend our money at that respect us. We need to stop going to these places where we know we don't have respect. There was something happened at Victoria's Secret recently where some manager told all the black people to leave or something like that. We need to stop going to these places and spend our money with black-owned businesses, the minority-owned businesses, and show them what the power that we have with our money. Because
Ken,
and a lot of this stuff is about money.
Right. And
Scotty, you had something to say?
Yeah.
Scotty.
Yeah, I wanted to say something. I'm sorry to hear about that too, Mr. Wilkerson. I live here in North Carolina, and these little white kids act just like their racist parents. Okay, not all of them not all of them practice racism, but enough of them practice racism. And so I live in an area of North Carolina where we have always been in the minority since they integrated schools. My mom said she didn't even, why did they do that? Our black school that was segregated was better, that it was a good school and all of that. But since they did integration, my aunt was like one of the first ones to integrate the high school. And then so all of what we need to be telling our children is what my parents were doing during that time period here in North Carolina, what my generation was doing, and we were sticking together. Whenever one of these situations came up, you wasn't going to deal with just one black person that you was trying to single out, because we all were going
with everybody.
We were all going to come to that person's defense. And they quickly got the message that we are not going to allow you to terrorize us. See, these people through the media, Malcolm X talked about this, and Dylan Roof even mentioned the reason he targeted black churches because he saw them as being meek, which is another word for weak. And so they see when we present a weak front, then we should expect these things to happen. When we stick together and show a strong front, well, my experience has been they don't mess with you. Now, on the last comment I want to say is about Victoria's Secret. For 4 years, we've been doing New Abolitionist Radio on this network. We've been naming all the corporations because y'all said y'all going to talk about the 13th documentary film, which the 13th did not abolish slavery, if you read the 13th. So Victoria's Secret is among those corporations that are invested in what I call modern day slavery according to the 13th Amendment. So we should have long been stopped shopping at these places that won't give us jobs on the outside, act like they don't want us shopping there, but they are darn sure hire our people for slave wages on these prison slave plantations. That's all I wanted to add.
Well, thank you, Scotty. Thank you, Scotty. And as I said, those two films, 13, it's about the 13th Amendment. And the other, I Am Not Your Negro, is about James Baldwin and his living in Paris and what happened when he came back. And both of those are gut-wrenching films. And I try to speak about 13th to everyone that I see. You've got to see it. You've got to see it. And it's not simply to promote the film so that she can be rich. It's to promote the film so that our community can be educated. Because there are schools who don't teach black kids or any kid history. They don't teach black history. They teach the history that's written in the typical textbook that everybody gets that leaves black history
and they never
out.
And they never will, and that's not in
And
their
they
agenda.
never will.
And frankly, it's not up to them. It's up to
No, it
us
isn't.
to
It's up to us to educate our own.
to educate our children. And I have friends on Facebook who post things like, you'll see, and I've told you this before, Collette, there'll be a graduating class of 10 black kids from say West Point, and then they'll say, why doesn't the media show this? Well, two things. First of all, why would you expect the media to show that? They're not going to celebrate our successes. But the other thing
No,
is
they're
that
not.
what we need to do is make that non-newsworthy. That should not be newsworthy that we have a
Right.
graduating
It
class
should be
of black
every
kids
day.
from West Point or USC or MIT. Now it should be. We should celebrate those. But again, you don't see it in the news when 10 white kids graduate from West Point
Absolutely.
or MIT
That's right.
or Caltech. So why would we
That's right.
expect them to put, again, it shouldn't be newsworthy. And what we've got to do, start thinking about things differently. Instead of getting
Right.
mad about that they're not showing us, just show it ourselves, celebrate our own successes. And the people that have success in a way that others can emulate.
Right.
Going to college, getting their degrees, starting businesses, doing things that help the community, doing things that are positive. We need to celebrate those on our own and stop expecting other people to do it. We send our kids to these schools and then we get mad at them because, they didn't teach our kids Black history.
And
well,
we
they're
expect
not. They had never have it.
they're not going to.
If I could
And
say
we
something,
go ahead.
if I
Go
could
ahead.
say something real quick. And see, this is one of the things that our Black parents have to understand this thing. When you look at when you look at all our Black colleges, right, struggling. But here's the problem: our Black colleges would actually be better than any universities in the United States
Absolutely.
if we start using wisdom. Now, hear me out. Just think of the bigger picture. If we send all of our 5-star athletes to all our Black colleges, all that revenue will now start coming to them, and they will expand, and they'll be making billions of dollars a year because we're making everybody else rich, and we're steadily getting weaker. And we got to start addressing that to our Black parents. Look, the education in the Black school ain't no different than the education in another school. Matter of fact, it's better because it's more hands-on. There's more caring because you're looking at somebody who look like you teach you.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's right.
So that's definitely
right.
something that we need to start promoting, telling, look, send your son.
A Black
I know you
college.
guys do. Yeah.
Well, my daughter went to Texas Southern. One of them went to Texas Southern. The other one went to San Jose State. And the one that went to San Jose State is very different from the one that went to Texas Southern. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. They grew up with very, very different views of the world. Kiana grew up thinking San Jose way, the Bay Area way. Andriana grew up thinking the Texas way, the Texas Southern way. And it's boy, you wouldn't believe it.
Did you say San Jose State?
What was that?
Did you say San Jose State?
I did.
I can't remember the young black man that was found hung in the basement of one of them white frat houses. Do you recall that? I forget that young man's name.
I certainly don't know.
Yeah, I have to look it up. I interviewed his mother, but it's been years ago, so I can't remember his name. But it was a black man, a black student who was living in the frat house with white boys, and they found him hanging dead in the basement. And what was was crazy about it was that they had to have murdered him because in the basement, you know, if he'd have hung himself and let's say, you know, jumped off look, his feet was touching the ground. I think his knees were almost on the ground. So somebody had to pull him to strangle him with that noose, and they covered it up at San Jose State. That's why I knew that name from somewhere, and yeah, it was San Jose State where they found him. And
I'm going to look that up, Scotty.
Yeah.
I am going to look that up.
I'll send you the information.
San Jose State is where the two athletes who were in the Olympics in the track and field, who stood on the podium with the clenched fist, the Black Power fist. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Carlos.
Okay.
Carlos.
Right.
Yeah. I have one more
Olympics
question, though. I have one more question pertaining to your area with what was his name? That William Sims, the 28-year-old that was killed by them white terrorists at that bar. And not far from where y'all at. And I had asked you about this, Yolanda, and asked you if you had saw something on the news about it. And you said no. And he was from Richmond, California. And so
Okay, that's the Bay Area.
Yeah,
that's up north.
They arrested one person. They arrested one person, but two of the terrorists is still on the loose. And it's been 3 weeks.
What?
Yes, it's been 3 weeks. And I'm not seeing any urgency from law enforcement or the mainstream media. And do y'all remember what was the former military veteran that shot them L.A. cops? What was his name? Christopher Dorner.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when they were hunting him down, you had a multi-state law enforcement agencies hunting him down.
Seen L.A. Oh, you should have seen L.A. Oh, my God.
But I'm not seeing, are y'all seeing a similar response and finding these two armed and dangerous white men that's on the loose?
No.
Okay,
no.
Thank you.
And when you have to remember, when you think of California, Los Angeles, Southern California specifically, you have to think in terms of La La Land. If it has anything to do with La La Land, like the movie, Hollywood, then you're going to get some action. If it doesn't, it's okay when we get to it. Okay, especially when it's dealing with black folks, minorities. Okay, and you can take that one to the bank. We live it every day here in La La Land. And it's so easy to name a film La La Land because that's what this is about. That's exactly what this is about.
I don't want to victim blame, but as more details are coming out, and like my daughters and a couple of their male friends had went to see one of their, my daughter, this guy that's in the Air Force, he'd been in the Air Force, but she went to high school with him and they're dating. So they all went up there to visit him in Virginia. And so, of course, I told them, well, you know, you passing through KKK country, so make sure that y'all have the means to defend yourself, which I knew they did. But don't trust no one, these smiling faces. Now, one of the young men that went with them, because he dates my other daughter, and I asked him, I said, how did it go up there? And he was like, oh, it was cool and this and that and the other. But he said that the boy named Cortland is who they were going to see. He said he sure do like to hang with a bunch of white people. I said, you know what? That's how William Sims got murdered. Because when you look at the details that's coming out, he was the only black person in that bar. This is a white bar. And most of his friends are white. Okay? And so we are asleep thinking, you know, that we are not behind enemy lines and that we have to be more careful. And so because he ended up at this white bar by himself and ended up getting targeted and killed.
Oh, my God. Well, I have not heard about that. One thing that we also need to do, as Ray Wilkerson said, when we send our kids to school, there's so many black folks who think, black colleges, I don't think so. No, it just doesn't know. It doesn't have the same, it's not the same thing as going to, and I think that education is not up to par. That's not a Class A1 education. You have got to be kidding me. And I have heard people more times than I can count, more times than I care to count, that going to a black college is substandard, that black colleges are substandard. They don't have this, they don't have that. Well, you know what? Traditional colleges, fine, they're great. Traditional colleges recruit black athletes, and the athletes lose their minds. And just like Mr. Wilkerson said, when you have a son that's being recruited by a top college, yeah, fine. Find yourself a black college. Build that. Build that black college. Because by building that black college, you are supporting the black community who will support your son. Let something happen to your black son when he's at a traditional college. They're going to distance themselves, as they've always done. Look at Reggie Bush. Okay, Reggie Bush and his family got $100,000 way back when. And it was found out when he was drafted into the NFL. Then it all went away. Then there was a big controversy about his father having to buy a suit and his mother having to buy a dress to go to the ceremony, and I believe that was for the Heisman Trophy. They bought clothing. They came from living a life of poverty. But there was a big issue made about that. But how do we tell our kids that we are in the struggle, we're going to unify, we're going to do this, but we don't allow our black kids to go to black colleges? We don't send them to black colleges. At Crenshaw High School, the black colleges, they're not even talked about. Our kids would rather go to a community college than go to a black college.
Well, can I say something in defense of myself and my daughter? My daughter couldn't afford that HBCU, and I was not going to mortgage the house so she can go to college. Okay, she can go to community college where it's less expensive for a couple of years, get most of her electives and main courses out the way, and then transfer somewhere else. But
okay, they can do that. They can do that. But there are ways to circumvent mortgaging your house and all of the other things that go along with that, go along with sending a kid to college. But staying here in California, if you have an opportunity, if a kid has an opportunity to go to a black college and it doesn't cost as much as going to a college here, you have a choice. Do you stay here and go to a community college, or do you leave and take that opportunity and go to a black college in another part of the country where there are black colleges? Because remember, there aren't any black colleges west of the Mississippi. So do you stay here and go to a community college where you have a chance of not doing what you set out to do and not getting the kind of nurturing that a black college can give a student? Where's the choice? What do you do? For me, for my money and the way I see things, my kid goes to a black college. My kid goes to a black college, and I support black colleges. So go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll wait till you're done.
I'm going to say something else, but you go ahead, Ray.
So, all my grandkids that are in North Carolina, it's something that we got to push them to, and I'm proud of my son. He does this. They go through dual enrollments. My last my second oldest granddaughter graduated when she was 16 years old from Anson County High School, but she graduated with a degree, in a high school degree and a junior college degree, and my other granddaughter. So they actually went in college as juniors. Went to Fayetteville State because she checked into East Carolina and it cost all this money, but because of what she did academically, she was able to get into Fayetteville with only 2 years, 2 years instead of 4, because she already took care of the 2. So we need to start promoting our kids. If they're in the school system, do they have these dual diagnosed courses where they can be going in college and going to high school at the same time, which will advance them faster and get closer to the end goal than if they just wait to go to that first 4-year school.
In addition to that, Brother Ray.
And agreeing with Scotty, so really, it's a dual thing. If you can't afford it at that time, so let's get that community college while they're in high school.
Right. And then also there's the CLEP test. At the community college I went to, which I went to the one here in Gaston County and then transferred to Central Piedmont in Charlotte. But you could take the CLEP test, where you don't even have to take the entire course. You take the CLEP test. If you pass it, you get that full college credit for that class of course. So that saved me money.
And there's so many ways. There's so many ways to get around and to circumvent the cost of going to college so that it doesn't put you in debt to the government forever. So
and some of these kids have to look at
what was that?
What they're doing. Some of them have to look at what they're doing. I know a young lady who got her BA, and she had an encounter with a police officer where he has sexually assaulted her, and she decided to go back to school to get her law degree because she wanted to work in helping women who were in the same situation. But a couple of years into it, about a year or so into it, she realized she was going to pay $200,000 for an education that was going to net her about a job that would pay about $40,000 a year. So she decided to drop out. So when it comes to talking about, cost and things like that, these kids have to weigh the cost. How much money are you spending? And at the end of it, are you going to be able to basically afford to pay it back and actually live a life? So But I know that we are coming toward the top of the hour. Collette, why don't you give us some information that we've got? We're going to be launching a couple. We're going to do a 2-hour show starting at the beginning of the year. We found out that an hour is not enough. We have callers that want to get in, people want to get into the conversation. Yeah, and so Collette, why don't you tell them about our expansion plans?
Okay, well, let's also do this. Folks, give yourself the gift of good health this season. Attend the Southern California Women's Health Conference and Expo that brings together thousands of men, women, families, and children, and community-based health organizations, medical professionals, beauty and wellness experts for a day of fun, a day of education, a day of inspiration and motivation, all on Friday, December 16th at the Pasadena Hilton Hotel. That's Friday, December 16th from 7:30 a.m. till 3:30 p.m. All the workshops in the expo are free. There is a luncheon and a breakfast, and the breakfast is $35. There is also a man cave. So remember to register, www.theSoCalHealthConference.org. That's www.theSoCalHealthConference.org. Remember, Southern California Women's Health Conference in Pasadena this Friday, December 16th, 2016, in Pasadena. And yes, Ken, as you were stating, we are going to expand our show. We're going to move to a 2-hour show. As you can see, we don't have enough time to get everything and all of the conversation in. So when we have 1 or 2 callers, it goes on, and we have to, our conversations are lively, and we need more time. So we are expanding as of January, and we're also launching new shows, new broadcasts, new programs, and I'm sure that all of you will be anxious to hear what we're doing. So please listen. This is December 13th, and we are going to be talking about this further. So listen in, and remember to call in. You can email us at changematters99.gmail. At Gmail. That's changematters99@gmail. So give us a call. Drop us a line at changematters99@gmail. Get involved in the conversation. We're talking about solution. We're talking about change, and this is about you. This is about the Black community and what we can do to unify and what we can do to lift ourselves and to lift our brothers and sisters. So join us. Ken, you want to close us out?
Thank you for joining us again for another conversation. I want to thank Mr. Ray Wilkerson, who's on the line with us. Thank you for your input, Wilkerson. We appreciate that. Thank you all for listening. Again, this is Changing Matters Solutions. We do this every Tuesday at 8 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Central, and 11 o'clock on the East Coast. Again, as Collette mentioned, we will be moving to 2 hours, and we'll get that information because the time will change. We're going to get that information out to you. We always enjoy the conversation, always enjoy the guest we have, and we will shut down here. Thank you, and join us for next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us. I am Collette Williams signing out. Thank you, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone. Be sure to join us next week, same time, same place. Thanks a lot. Take care.